Welcome back to Whiteout Weekly. As always, I'm Dave Barron here with my lovely co-host Maddie Marlucci. After our sixth straight glorious victory, sixth
Oh, by
straight.
the way, first
Yep.
episode, no sling.
Woo! Let's go,
First
baby.
episode. Don't have full mobility, but no sling. First episode. Could hold up
Road
to
to
six.
road to
Barely.
recovery is off and running. Let's
Yep.
go. So I stand corrected. Sixth straight victory week. We got a new map, no sling. And most importantly, Matt, sixth straight victory for the Cover Kings. As
Unreal. Unreal.
it
42 and a
was
half. We didn't think it would happen, but it did.
a rainy homecoming bloodbath for those poor Minutemen of UMass who still did collect their game check, their $1 million check for
Mhm.
making the trek down the Northeast corridor to Happy Valley to get their butts absolutely whooped 63-0.
Put up a better fight than Delaware. That's for sure.
That is for damn sure. Some interesting nuances in this game. I think first and foremost was the coming out party for Big Play Day,
Oh, for
DaeQuan
sure.
Hardy, who had 2 punt returns for touchdowns. And I think that's something that we've been waiting for this year is some sort of explosion in the kick return game or punt return game. And we got it. Got in the punt return game with DaeQuan Hardy and then even Caden Saunders. I think he took that a little personally. He doesn't want
What
that
was
job swiped away.
what was the reason behind that? Just Caden Saunders not being effective or just switching it
So,
up?
from what I gathered, DaeQuan Hardy was someone that they were looking at in all of camp as a potential return man. Franklin stated that the competition was very close. So, just like they do with kickers in all positions, they stat track everything, and the catch, I guess, call it catch completion percentage, was just about equal. And they made the decision to go with Saunders and had the opportunity to get DaeQuan some run in this game, and he took full advantage, man, full advantage.
Yeah, surprised it didn't if they had if they were equal that they didn't switch it earlier if they were kind of, disappointed in it
Yeah,
in the punt return game.
absolutely. And then, like I mentioned at the end of the game, I think Saunders took it a little personally as he had a nice little 37-yard return himself, so not ready to give that job up just yet. And a little interesting other nuance is we saw some deep shots from Drew Aller.
Yeah.
1 week removed from the Corey Yager presser with James Franklin, where again didn't word that question as most would have, but definitely saw Drew take some shots down the field. Didn't really connect on any of them,
He
but was interesting to see
just
that.
overthrew him. Yeah. That was
Yeah,
so
so
close.
but was nice to see. So I think overall this was a pretty easily handed win as we expected. What did you get from last weekend, Matt?
So we saw the return of Trey Wallace. We've been
Mm-hmm.
talking about a number two receiver for basically the entire season. First catch, little tough. Caught it, fumbled.
Mm-hmm.
They recovered, but ended up having 3 catches for 44 yards. And the announcers, if you were watching the game, were all over him, talking about his potential as a number two receiver. And then Theo Johnson, a quiet 4 catch,
Mm-hmm.
66-yard, 2 touchdown game. So if Trey Wallace can produce as a number two, and Tyler Warren and Theo Johnson can produce as red zone threats, I think we're
Mm-hmm.
fine in the passing game. I don't think we need a clear cut number two. I think we can work around those 4 or 5 components to create a lethal passing game. And I also want to shout out Cam Miller.
Mm-hmm.
He like DaeQuan Hardy was like playing with a user in Madden, basically. He was insane. Just the punt returns. He also is the highest targeted secondary player, 5 targets his way. He allowed 1 catch for -1 yard. So that counts as a defensive
Mm-hmm.
stop. He had a solo tackle and a team high 32 defensive snaps. But Cam Miller also was a wrecking ball. He had 2 pressures, got to the quarterback twice, 2 sacks, had 3 defensive stops, and was also part of that lockdown U that held the Minutemen to 45, 46 yards, I think it was, in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed 1 catch on 3 targets for 0 yards. So shout out Cam Miller. And then one final stat: we've now outscored opponents 66-0 in the third quarter, which is a great sign because that means coaches are making halftime adjustments to what they're seeing on the defense, on their offense, and we're running different schemes and different strategies to score points and stop them.
Yeah, I think a lot's to be said. We looked over the last couple years. I know obviously we're going to get into the matchup that's upon us this weekend, but some folks are saying, hey, this team hasn't been tested yet. They haven't really had to face adversity, but we've also never really been in this position. So there's been plenty of times where we've head into the big game with Ohio State or Michigan. Yes, we haven't been able to come out of there with a win, and definitely not go through a season where we're able to get both of those games. But we've never really been in a position where we're going in this game where we've just absolutely obliterated every single team that we've played. So yes, they haven't been in situations that they may find themselves in on Saturday where you have to go down the field and get a score to kind of lift some pressure off the defense. But also definitely never seen this where the defense is just so absolutely dominant. They're taking care of the football on the offensive side of the ball. Drew was still no turnovers, which is, I think, a stat that still it gets talked about, but I think the magnitude of it still gets glossed over. The fact that first year starting quarterback still has 0 turnovers.
Unreal.
And yeah, like I said, that we're just in a position where everyone that's come into this team's path has just been obliterated. We've never really been in that spot where we've truly taken care of business when they should have been. So that's also a reason for confidence heading into this weekend, although that this game is always scary, but it's just uncharted waters for this team, and it's an exciting thing. It's an exciting place to be in.
So every week, whether it's Jake Butt, whoever's calling the game, it seems that they refer to the line. You have to look, like when the Lions start blowing out their opponent, you have to look at this game through the lens of Penn State playing Michigan and Ohio State. And here we are. But first, very quickly, we're going to go around the trenches, aka around the Big Ten.
Trenches on 3. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Got regular gas. We run diesel premium only.
Voice crack on the snap.
Personal foul. 69. Offense. He was giving them the business. We played it there.
It was a 5-game slate on Saturday with 3 divisional matchups: Indiana, Michigan State, and of course Penn State were on bye weeks. Dave, let's start with my favorite, the battle of the Big Ten West swamp. Iowa heads into Madison, jumps around Wisconsin 15-7 in the most stereotypical Big Ten West game possible, as is tradition. That's the way that game should have been played.
When you think the score can't get any lower, Iowa says, hold my beer, watch this.
I forget what it was. I think it was
like 36.
It's ridiculous. Unfortunately, the Badgers starting quarterback Tanner Mordecai broke his hand and requires surgery, which is going to probably put an end to his season. Sort of sucks as that offense was kind of somewhat finding a rhythm with him behind center. And also sucks because you had Cade McNamara go out for the season the week before. So, wasn't both teams' true lineups, but Wisconsin started their backup, Braden Locke, freshman. And I'll pay you $10 if you can spell Braden the way he spells it.
Not even going to give that a shot. Give me 10.
Braedyn, Braden.
Ooh.
He had a rough go. I'll send you the clip. He got demolished, like a Jack Tuttle demolishing on a sack for safety. Fumbles in the end zone. Iowa picked it up for the safety. And then he also had another fumble while escaping pressure and attempting to throw the ball. That led to an Iowa field goal. Final stats are him, 15 of 30 for 122 yards and a game-clinching interception. Some fun facts about that game. I love my Big Ten West fun facts. Iowa backup quarterback filling in for Deacon Hill threw 14 times. He was 6 of 14 for 37 yards. No joke. That's a 3.2 QBR.
That was in the script.
There were 6 punts by both teams in the first half.
Also in the script.
Iowa did have an 82-yard rushing touchdown. But if you take that away, both teams totaled 213 yards and 2 turnovers on downs in really weird situations. So Wisconsin's first drive, they get the ball on their own 6, go on an 11-play, 83-yard drive, commit a false start on 3rd and 1, and then Braylon Allen gets stuffed on 4th and 1 for a loss of 3 at the 13-yard line. So first drive, it's going to be a low-scoring game, and they go for it on it was 3rd and 5. They get it to 4th and 1. They go for it instead of kicking the field goal. Dumb by them. Ended up biting them in the butt, if you think about it. But then Iowa, weird situation, turnover on downs in the first half on a 4th and 3 call after they tried to trick the Wisconsin defense on the jet sweep with Rico Raggiani. I think I said that right. And he lost 6 yards at the Wisconsin 32-yard line. So I don't know if they didn't have faith in their kicker, but they tried the trick play on 4th down, and we both know there's no tricks in the Big Ten West. You run the ball, you play defense, and that's how you do it. But I guess hats off to those coordinators, for their gutsy play calling and really opened up the offense in that one. By the way, that score, it was 10-7 heading into the 4th quarter. 10-7.
If you bet the under, that's your dream.
Dream under. In all seriousness, though, Iowa's running back, LaShawn Williams, is a factor back. Rushing for 174 yards, had that 82 home run, touchdown run. And I noticed Wisconsin's number 9 wide receiver, Bryson Green, he has hands. And it seemed every 3rd down, every clutch play that they needed, they went his way. So currently, Hawkeyes to the top, the Big Ten West swamp at 6-1 overall. Wisconsin falls to 4-2. And the other 5 teams in the division don't have a record above 500, 3-3 and worse. Quite the conundrum we find ourselves in for one more year. The most shocking around the trenches, I would say Illinois upsetting Maryland after we had hyped Maryland up basically every podcast. They beat them 27-24 on a 43-yard field goal as time expired after the Terps hit a 48-yarder to tie it with 1:31 left in the game. That's now 2 straight losses for the Terps. as they were held under 100 yards to the first 100 rushing yards, for the first time all season against Illinois, who had the worst rushing defense in the Big Ten coming into that game. So some worries in Maryland there. Their offensive line is kind of a rotating door, and Talia's been really good at escaping sacks, but got taken down 3 times, season high against Illinois. And when he escapes and can't find receivers down the field, it's over. And on the other side of that game, Illinois looks like they got their guy in quarterback Luke Altmaier. He went 16 of 28 for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, also had 29 rushing yards as a part of Illinois' 131 total on the ground. So from watching that game, I think I got the blueprint to beat Maryland. Get the pass rush going, to get to Talia, rattle him, get him out of the pocket so he can't find his receivers down field. And with that being said, Lockdown U needs to stay with their men when he escapes. And then finally, stop the run, because they have a phenomenal run game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're out the swamp, I think. Yeah.
For now.
Pretty much.
So shifting gears over, well, actually, before we shift gears, I know typically we take this or keep this within the Big Ten, but wanted to give a quick shout out to former Penn State QB Christian Veilleux, who got his first start for the Pittsburgh Panthers this past weekend.
Nice.
And pulled off a big dub against then undefeated Louisville Cardinals. It was 6-0. Veilleux threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a damn shame that Pat Narduzzi, well, we know Narduzzi's a bum and he's got his beef with Franklin in the Penn State program, but it took him 6 games to realize that Veilleux was the better quarterback. They finally moved on from former starter Phil Jurkovec, and Veilleux in his first game gets the big home dub and looked pretty damn good. So shout out to our guy Christian Veilleux.
That's a wild quarterback room. Jurkovec is like, what is it, 6 year? He was from Boston College back.
Hit their 6th year, I believe. Yeah.
And then the Canadian sensation.
Yeah.
That's a wild quarterback room.
Very wild. So now I was gonna say, just wanted to give that a quick shout out. So shifting gears back to the Big Ten East. So starting with Rutgers, who had a big matchup against ailing Michigan State, was trailing in this one 24-6 in the third quarter, rallied to come all the way back, led by their running back Kyle Monangai, who had a big game, 148 rushing yards, including the game-winning 21-yard run on the first play of that game-clinching series.
I saw it. I didn't see the game. I saw that highlight though. That guy's got track speed.
Yeah, definitely a game breaker in the backfield. Rutgers, they got something there. They got something brewing too. Shiano's got a little mojo rolling here as
they
Rutgers
do.
Improves to 5-2, and they got a tough slate coming up. But to be at this point in the season and to be at 5-2, looks pretty good for them. But like I said, that closing slate is daunting. They got a matchup this weekend at Memorial Stadium against the Hoosiers, and then you got home against Ohio State, at Iowa, at Penn State, home against Maryland.
At Iowa doesn't look as bad with their. I mean, they did just beat Wisconsin. So what am I saying? Wow, that's a belly of the beast. They're now Jonah.
Yeah,
in the belly.
So looking at that, just dissecting it,
they're 5-2 right now.
Yeah, so got to win against IU. That gets you bowl eligible, and it, depending on the rest of those games go, could turn a magical season into a 6-6 campaign with tough one at Ohio State.
Disastrous.
Kinnick's always tough. Obviously got us, and then that Maryland, who's also 5-2, could be a toss up there at the end of the year. So this
they're 5-2.
Could be a tale of 2 seasons for Rutgers here coming out.
I got them 6-2, 6-3. At Iowa, 6-3. I'm gonna give it to him. 7-3. Lose to Penn State, 7-4 at home against the Terps. Ooh, I'll give it to him. 8-4. I think I have Mass.
Oh, Shiano man, getting them back.
8-4, 7-5. They're gonna have a winning record. I think they'll be over 6-6.
I think it spirals out of control and they end up 6-6. So we.
Oh man, predicting a spiral. Jeez, that's never good. You're just voodoo hexing them right now.
So we shall see on that one. And then finally, the top dogs in the Big Ten East, the class of the Big Ten, Michigan.
Excluding us,
of course. Michigan, of course, which we'll get into with Matt's Big Ten betting bonanza woes, but they had a slow start, up 21-7 at the end of the first half, so didn't quite cover that first half spread.
Opposite of what every other game had. Opposite.
Yeah.
Come on.
But Michigan has slowly but surely turned a corner here, as they gave me quite a bit of woes early in the year when I was banking on them to cover that spread. But now they got consecutive weeks with covers against the spread. So they had 45-7 against Nebraska, 52-10 drubbing at Minnesota, and then this week absolutely handling the Hoosiers 52-7. So they go from 0-3-1, because I believe they pushed against Rutgers, to now 3-3-1 against the spread. So Michigan, we talk about it every episode, but each week they seem to really be turning a corner and finding a new way to show that they're for real, and they're a juggernaut. I know obviously they went to the college football playoff last year. They won the Big Ten, got into the Big Ten title again 2 years in a row, but they just seem to be getting better and better, which is a very scary thing.
Yeah, we've brought up a different aspect of their team every episode so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
But they just found a new way to surprise us. And this week, I think it was their tight end, Colston Loveland, who went for 80 yards on 3 catches and a tutty. And I think he's a sophomore. He's a young guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guess who Michigan's backup quarterback is?
I definitely did not see McCarthy go out of this game, so
I thought he did, because they were up so much.
No, he did. I'm just saying I didn't see it. I feel like there's one I should know.
I'll give you. You mentioned already in the podcast.
Oh no! Is it our boy?
It's Jack Tuttle, baby.
Let's go.
He went 5 for 5 for 22 yards and a touchdown.
I can't believe he's still around. I totally forgot he transferred.
Yeah, shout out the Arnold Caddy hit. And he had another one too. AK hit him, and then he had another huge blow.
That's right. I forgot he was playing last year after announcing his intent to transfer. I totally forgot about that. That's amazing.
I saw that and was just like, oh my goodness. Yeah, Tuttle could potentially play against Penn State again.
Hey, at least he did right by him and got out of the swamp.
So lastly, the team that we've been waiting to face pretty much all year, Ohio State. They crushed Purdue, as they should have, 41-7. Boilermakers missed 2 field goals and didn't score a single point until the fourth quarter. All right, a single touchdown until the fourth quarter. Excuse me. Marvin Harrison Jr. went for over 100 yards in his 4th game out of 6, and I believe the other 2 he came out for a significant amount of time due to injury. So got, I mean, everyone knows he's a stud, wide receiver number 1 in this year's draft class by far. But I say it every week. I did notice Purdue's running back Devin Maccabee went for 110 rushing yards on 10 carries, which is their 3rd straight game of allowing a team to rush for over 100 yards. And over the last 3 weeks, they're allowing over 135 yards on the ground per game. So that brings us to the big game, noon on Fox, Penn State at Ohio State. It is going to be absolutely raucous there. Game day, I believe, is there. The spread is Ohio State minus 4.5. The over-under is 45.5. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
So, weird fact about this game opened as Ohio State minus 10. And now it's Ohio State minus 4.5. So that could be taking into consideration some of the injuries that Ohio State has been going through. I'm looking at the money totals now. 70% of bets are on Penn State, and 79% of the money so far is on Penn State. And that's with over 22,000 bets as of Wednesday night. So speaking of those injuries, TreVeyon Henderson, I read he fractured and tore a ligament in his foot, and he's going to require surgery, but his status is unclear. So that he's going to be shot up a lot of cortisol if that's the case. But Dave, who's up next? I've literally no idea who's up after him.
Yeah, TreVeyon's been banged up even last year, so he's struggled to stay healthy. Mayan Williams, backup, also banged up. I believe he missed that matchup against Purdue. Ryan Day's hopeful.
I thought they had Mayan, but I haven't seen him play at all this year. Yeah,
I believe Ryan Day said that he's hopeful that he'll be able to give it a go. So really you're looking at, so last week they ended up playing Dallas Hayden, who did carry the rock 11 times for 76 yards, had a touchdown. He believe is a 5th-year senior, if I'm not mistaken, if not a standard 4-year senior. So look for him and Xavier Johnson, who's gotten a little bit of run, but definitely a lot of injury concerns, not just at the running back position, really kind of all over the offense. You mentioned Harrison, who's been hobbled. I think even in the Notre Dame game, he's been dealing with a hobbled ankle that he continues to push through, but ends up getting a little bit more banged up each week. So that's definitely something to keep note. But a lot of uncertainty in that backfield, which bodes well for Penn State and trying to get after a young quarterback.
And Harrison's partner in crime, Emeka Egbuka, missed the Purdue game with an unspecified lower body injury, which he suffered in the Maryland game, and he's listed as questionable right now. But he's a sneaky, great compliment to Harrison Jr., but really elevates himself by being like their go-to playmaker in some clutch situations. So even with him out, they still have Cade Stover, who's a mismatch at tight end. Loveland, the new other tight end. So it's going to be Kalen King, Johnny Dixon, DaeQuan Hardy, Zakee Wheatley, all those safeties. Biggest test by far this season. And I'm going to say they're going to pass it. Not by flying colors, but they're going to pass it. Because so far this season, I've seen nothing but them just being receivers' hip pockets all game long. And one little fact, This year, Kalen King only been targeted 18 times with one pass breakup. Last year against Ohio State, he allowed 5 catches on 7 targets for 93 yards. So watch out for that Kalen King versus Marvin Harrison Jr. matchup.
Yeah, I think definitely one that he's probably had circled for quite some time. He got beat a couple times in that game by Marvin Harrison. So King's definitely proven his worth and stepped up in Joey Porter's absence this year with him moving on to the NFL. He doesn't have the real gaudy numbers that would show it, but he's doing it in a much different way where he's eliminating half of the field where he's just not being targeted.
Yeah.
So I think for him, obviously a huge matchup with him going up against Harrison, and would love to see him just absolutely shut him down. There hasn't been a corner in the country that's been able to. So with that in itself is a huge test. I think the Ibuka injury lingering concern is huge, because if he's unable to go, it would be interesting to see what Diaz's strategy is do you implement something where you have maybe some help from a safety or a linebacker to cut out the underneath or over the top with Harrison and force them to go to, I know Stover's a phenomenal tight end, so it's not, you don't want to say, hey, let Stover beat you, but they also have some younger guys back there who are a little bit more unproven. They got freshman Carnell Tate, who I believe had 3 catches, about 80 yards last week. So he's got talent, but be interesting to see if Ibuka can't go, what that strategy is. I think even if Ibuka can go, you've seen what we've gotten from Johnny Dixon this year and DaeQuan Hardy and the nickel. So they have the options and the guys to be able to match up with these talented receivers. So that's seems obvious, but it's absolutely a key to this game is if they can keep that passing attack in check.
Yeah, I think if we do bracket Harrison Jr., bring a safety over top with Kalen King on him, we got to have a prowler in there, whether it be Kevin Winston Jr., Zaki, maybe even Elliott Washington, just to be in there to guard Cade Stover on any kind of seam route or anything like that, because he can break open a game.
Yeah.
But enough talking about how great Ohio State is, and let's talk about how we're going to win this game. Davey, what do you got for some mismatches in this game that I can bank on?
I think the biggest mismatch is the DNs and the production that we've seen week in and week out from Adisa, Chop, and Denai Dennis Sutton. Is we've talked about in the past, I think even the opening episode, about how this could be a year where you have a transitioning quarterback at Ohio State where it's no longer Justin Fields, no longer CJ Stroud, it's Kyle McCord, who's gotten better week over week, but especially on the offensive line. So Ohio State it's no longer Paris Johnson out there. He's off to the NFL. And they got a couple of guys who have proven to be weak links in this line. So I think those DNs continuing to have the type of production that they've had, this isn't a huge moment for them to be able to do it on a big stage. So at right tackle, they got Josh Fryer, and at left tackle, Josh Simmons. Simmons, I believe, is the transfer from San Diego State. And if I'm not mistaken, he led the nation in penalties last year and is very well on track this year. He's basically a holding penalty guarantee each and every week. So I think using those guys on the edge to force them into those situations where they either they're getting by them or they're holding them to continue to push the chains back, I think is the must-see matchup here and a real opportunity to keep the Buckeyes behind the chains all day long.
Very un-Ohio State-like, not have a dominant offensive line. And I think it goes back to what we talked about last season, where I forget which coach mentioned it. They're they're not recruiting from Michigan, Ohio, like those kind of blue blood areas. They're kind of going to more elite blue blood areas like California, Florida, Texas, and not really getting the guys in their own state.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that goes to show for it, because offensive tackles and offensive guards grow on trees in the Midwest.
And they're especially not getting Drew Aller, the pride of Medina, Ohio, who left their territory to come to much greener pastures.
That went totally under the radar for me. Coming back to Ohio to play Ohio State, he's gonna. They let him cook. He's gonna cook.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I say it every episode. They have a weak run defense. We have to run the ball effectively, not only to gash that defense, but to slow their amazing pass rush down. Because we saw last year, JT Tua Malua literally won the game, and I think it was 4 plays. He won the game. And it will also give Alex some time, get him comfortable playing in that atmosphere and playing against the toughest defense he's faced in his life so far. So like I mentioned before, they've given up over 100 yards to teams over their past 3 games. So I think it's going to take all of Singleton's home run ability, Allen's vision and power, and Potts's vision and power as well to crack that code. And speaking of their quarterback, McCord, I think that's my second key to the game. We have to absolutely rattle him. And I love that you mentioned their offensive tackles are weak, because that helps so much. Because if we get him to the turf early, he's going to start second guessing his throws and those reads. My prediction on the Penn State jerseys, Instagram Live, the 60 burger against Massachusetts came true. Thanks for having us on, by the way. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. So I'm going with McCord after he gets sacked. He's going to be rattled. And one of those safeties, Jalen Reed, Ski Wheatley, Keaton Ellis, Kevin Winston Jr. are going to get a pick this week.
Love that.
And then anything for Ohio State that really stands out as a mismatch against us? Because I know there's some.
Yeah, I think you mentioned probably first and foremost their D-line is pretty incredible with JT. Be interesting to see, because where he typically plays is on the right side of the line, which would pin him up against Olu. So be interesting to see if Jim Knowles elects to flip him and have him match up against Caden Wallace, which would be a big test for Caden. So that will be something that's interesting to watch. I think for their secondary, it's pretty close to Penn State. Obviously, for us, Lockdown U, best in the business. We got an incredibly deep secondary, ton of young guys. Ohio State's definitely got something to write home about as well, with Denzel Burke, who's been banged up, was banged up last week against Purdue, but another one where we'll see how he holds up as a game time decision, but he's expected to play. He'll likely be matched up against Keandre. So for me, not really the concern of Lambert Smith being totally shut down. That'll definitely be a tough matchup. But as we've mentioned week after week, and even more so here, is that the need for not necessarily one guy to step up, but ensuring that we're able to get production from those other guys. So you talked about the tight ends, which we saw last week. For me, as a bold prediction, I am anticipating, or I would expect, one of Warren or Theo to have a 2-touchdown game in this one. I think.
Ooh, I like it. Okay.
I think they got it rolling last week. Theo, another one, kind of like Saunders with DaeQuan Hardy, where he saw what Tyler Warren was doing, and Theo kind of had his little coming out party where he had 2 touchdowns. He had a big game, a nice hurdle into the end zone So I think one of those two guys, Warren's always been clutch in these big moments. So with him staying healthy this year, knock on every piece of wood you got, but I think he's been huge. So I expect one of those two guys, or hell, both of them, to continue to step up and shine in big moments. And then looking for one or two of those other guys. So mentioned Harrison Wallace Trey Wallace coming back last week. Liam Clifford's been solid. Caden Saunders has gotten a lot of burn. Mari Evans, haven't really seen Malik McClain, but some combination of that grouping along with the tight ends is gonna be huge because Lambert Smith's gonna have his hands full with Denzel Burke. Not to say that Lambert Smith isn't good enough to still get open and make an impact, but it's definitely going to be needed for those other guys to step up.
Yeah, especially if Denzel Burke's banged up, might help Lambert Smith a little bit, but his route running is unreal.
Yeah,
his deep route running could use some work, but he can get open underneath whenever he wants. It's just a matter of how many yards we're getting after it. But I love that tight end production. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see Trey Wallace, Liam Clifford, Caden Saunders, Amari Evans, some young guys against, like you said, this type of secondary. Very, very daunting task. But, we recruited these guys for a reason. So let's see what they can do. My mismatch on the Ohio State side is going to be defensive tackle Marvin Hall Jr. against our banged up interior offensive line. You heard, if you watched the game on the broadcast, Big Ion's name, which is never good if you're an offensive lineman. If you hear your name called during a game, not a good sign. You want to be silent. So he will probably get the assignment of Michael Hall Jr., who is tied for 15th, in the Big Ten with 16 total pressures this season. And on top of that, JT, I'm just going to call him JT, edge rusher. He's number 6 in the Big Ten with 20. And to put that into context, Adisa Isaac has 19, which leads Penn State. So Marvin Hall Jr., we need to start him basically every time, every offensive set, because the fastest way to destroy a play is straight over the ball. And he's going to be lined up straight over the ball over sort of a patchwork group of interior linemen. So, with that being said, I'll give my prediction first. I think this defense is too good. I think this defense is playing way too well. Ohio State's offense is obviously a powerhouse. I think Kyle McCord is going to get some passes. Some of his passes I saw were for dimes. He's going to get some passes in, but I think that edge pressure is going to get to him, is going to rattle him. Our defense is going to win this game. I think it's going to be 24-17 Lions.
Woo! Let's go. For me, I think it's definitely going to be a defensive battle. I think it's going to be a little bit more higher scoring. Then we'll get into the Bonanza.
Wait, defensive battle, but higher scoring.
I know folks are saying that this will be a defensive battle. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring.
Okay.
I would sorry to phrase that. That didn't make much sense. I would say I would lean towards the over on this one, but I do think that the defense is going to make big time plays.
There we go.
This defense is way too good to give up another 44 spot like they did last year. Like this new and improved defense, year 2 under Manny Diaz, is going to show why they're the best in the country. So I think a final score of Lions 28, Bucks 21 would be my prediction. So again, hitting that over, but I think there's going to be a lot of key moments here where they come up in big time spots. I think this is the year they get it done, get the win in the shoe. And we're going to have highlights for years to come that are going to be more memorable. Not that we don't love the Saquon kick return in Columbus to silence the crowd out the gate. And a number of other highlights, the KJ Hamler, scamper against Ohio State off the catch and run. But these will be more memorable because there'll be highlights that we're getting in a win. So last one that we truly had that was from a win was the Grant Haley scoop and score. But we need some new highlights that come from a win against Ohio State, and this is the year that it gets done. I think Drew goes back to his home, close to his hometown, and continues to protect the rock. They manage the time of possession as they have all year. And really for me and this coaching staff is don't shy away from the big moments when you have those opportunities. Go for it on 4th and short. They're 11 for 12 this year on 4th down.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, our beloved Eagles get a lot of, fame with the tush push, the brotherly shove. Penn State's executing it pretty damn well as well when you have a big body quarterback. So when you have those opportunities, go for it. Yes. Don't shy away because it's Ohio State and you want to protect yourself. Be aggressive as they have all year. Manage the clock. Like you mentioned, Matt, with the run game, that's going to attribute to that. And keep the ball out of Ohio State's hands. That's how you're going to win this game. Wear down that defense. And like I said, they get it done this year. No doubt.
Stop the run. Get to McCord. I think we win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So we mentioned it a bit earlier in the podcast.
I had a dud Big Ten betting bonanza. 0 for 3. I was about to curse. 2 for 3, 0 points versus Dave 3-0, 3 points. You didn't have any bonuses. All right. So that changes things up in the standings as I came back to tie it. Now back down, which is exactly where I want to be. Love being the underdog. Time for Big Ten betting bonanza week 8.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. It is the Big Ten betting bonanza, and we had absolute flip-flop weeks. I'm going to go through mine real quick because I went 0-3. Rutgers -7. Did have a comeback, won by 3 points. Michigan flipping the script on me. I had them first half -20.5. They were up 21-7, I believe. And then Maryland, I think it was -14 against Illinois, lost straight up. 0-3, 0 points. Brings me to 9-12 on the year, below 500. 9 points. Exactly where I want to be this time of year. Exactly where I want to be. Dave, a 3-0 spot last week. Penn State cover Kings -41.5 against UMass. Michigan pulling off their cover, 33 points. And then the under 50.5 in Ohio State, Purdue. Purdue could not.
Just barely.
Purdue could not get the ball for anything. I think I said they didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
It was garbage time. So a 3-0 week. That's +3 bonanza points. Dave is 12-9 on the year with 16 bonanza points. So 16-9. I need to start betting smart, but taking some home run shots. And with that thrubbing last week, you can go first pick, sir.
With me going first, Sorry if this was on your board, but I got to steal it. Right out the gate. Cover Kings moved to 7-0. Penn State money line at plus 162. Don't even need the 4.5. They win this one outright. Give me the Lions all day long. A lot of money to be had here, folks. Jump all over it before that line moves anymore. Nits money line all day.
Yep, you're gonna do that. Continue to break my heart. I'm going Wisconsin on the road against Illinois. Illinois gives up 164.1 rushing yards per game, and at home 151.3. Wisconsin is 11-2 straight up against Illinois, 8-5 against the spread since 2008. The away teams covered the last 4. Give me Wisconsin minus 2.5. That was a struggle to get out, but boom, Wisconsin minus 2.5.
All right, for my second pick, talked about it earlier, about Rutgers sitting pretty, 5-2. You think they're going to go 8-4? I think it's going to be downward spiral. And let me tell you something, man. That downward spiral starts this weekend.
Wow.
At Memorial Stadium. Tom Allen's Hoosiers are not going down easy this year. They're having a rough year, but they catch those Scarlet Knights snoozing with that 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff. Or sorry, no, I believe Indiana's Eastern Time zone, so it's still noon. But still, sleepy start, quiet crowd.
On the road.
Scarlet Knights, they get off to a slow start, and they go down to the Hoosiers. Give me the Hoosiers money line, plus 176 at home against Scarlet Knights.
And that spreads, that would be, it's Rutgers minus 5.
I believe it's 5.
Okay. So, given what I saw last week, I am going to go with Indiana first half money line plus 140.
Ooh!
I'm taking first half money line plus 140. We talked about Rutgers slow start last week. I think they have another slow start. Was a little hype on Wimsat last week. He was kind of shaky. I think he's going to continue to decline a little bit. Indiana's on the up. Give me first half money line plus 140, which counters your plus 3, right? Let's go.
All right, my final pick. I am going with our beloved Hawkeyes, who continue to set the bar lower and lower when it comes to point totals. It's sitting pretty at 31.5 against the Golden Gophers at Minnesota. And because when you see that number constantly, I think to myself, there's no way they don't hit that over. Well, I'm done thinking that, and I'm a firm believer that they will continue to set the bar lower. Give me the under 31.5.
There's gonna, if that goes under, there's gonna be some crazy plays. Can't wait for it. So
2 punts on 1 play.
For my last pick, I'm going to the Swamp. We've been talking about it for so long that I feel like I know it. I feel like I'm Swamp creature. I'm part of the Swamp. So I'm going to Northwestern at Nebraska. So since joining the Big Ten in 2012, Nebraska is 6-5 straight up, but 4-7 against the spread against Northwestern, and 1-3 against the spread in their last 4. The spread's minus 11.5. I think that's way, way too many points. I'm taking Northwestern plus 11.5 there.
Dig it.
You know what? I just looked at their money line. It's plus 330. Is that a plus 7?
That's a plus 7.
Give me
You
the money
taking it?
line, baby.
Ooh!
Northwestern upsetting Nebraska.
Big dogs are coming out. Coming out firing this week. I love it.
I have to. I got to get back in this. And I'm going with Northwestern. What am I doing? Well, that's going to do it for week 8 of the Big Ten Betting Bonanza. Once again, thank you all for participating in our whiteout game ball giveaway. Congratulations to the winner. And thank you to everyone else who has liked, subscribed, followed our content. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. We love doing this. We're going to do it until the wheels fall off, as I always say. And we will see you next week after an incredible Penn State upset.
That's right, baby. Thanks, guys. Go Lions.
Peace.